Dear students, welcome you all to class 11 chemistry chapter 1 basic concepts of chemistry part 3. When elements combine chemically, they produce compounds. How these elements combine? That is governed by 5 laws. These 5 laws are called laws of chemical combination. These are the law of conservation of mass, the law of definite proportions, the law of multiple proportions, Gay-Lussac's law of gaseous volumes, and Avogadro's law. Let me write it. Laws of chemical combination. Elements combine chemically to form compounds which is governed by 5 laws. This chemical combination, how they combine, is governed by 5 laws. Law of conservation of mass, law of definite proportions, law of multiple proportions, Gay-Lussac's law of gaseous volumes, and Avogadro's law. Let us start with law of conservation of mass. Lavoisier was studying combustion reactions. While studying these reactions, he observed that in all types of changes, whether physical or chemical, there was no net change in the mass in the reaction. No change in the mass. It meant that the mass of reactants in a reaction was always equal to mass of products. For example, if we take 12 grams of carbon and we burn it. Burn means combustion. When we do combustion, and combustion happens always in presence of oxygen. When we react carbon with oxygen, say carbon is 12 grams and oxygen we took is 32 grams, then the carbon dioxide which was obtained was equal to 44 grams. Based on these observations, he gave the law that mass can neither be created nor be destroyed. Very famous law. Law was mass can neither be created nor be destroyed. Next was the law of definite proportions. Law of definite proportions was given in 1792 by J. Proust. Proust was studying the composition of various compounds. He took 2 samples of a compound called cupric carbonate. Cupric carbonate. One compound was natural, means came from the natural surroundings, dug from the earth, and the other sample of the compound was synthetic, means made in the lab. While studying the composition of both these samples of cupric carbonate, Proust observed that copper constituted 51.4%, carbon constituted 9.7%, and oxygen constituted 38.9% in the compound. In both these samples, he found that this percentage of the elements was same. On the basis of this observation, J. Proust stated that in a given compound, there are similar elements which combine in definite proportions by mass. means compound may be obtained from any source, the composition of elements in it by mass always remains the same. Therefore, this law is also called the law of definite composition. Let me write it. The law states that a given compound contains same elements which combine together in same proportion by mass. You take any sample of cupric carbonate, the composition of the elements will remain the same. That's why this law is also called law of definite composition. Let's start with law of multiple proportions. Law of multiple proportions was given by Dalton in 1803. He was studying the chemical reactions between nitrogen and oxygen. What he did was that he kept the amount of nitrogen same in 4 or 5 different reactions, and in each reaction he changed the amount of oxygen. What he observed was that different products were obtained when doing so. So he took nitrogen and oxygen and he got some products. He took nitrogen 28 grams in first reaction and oxygen as 16 grams, and the product obtained was nitrous oxide. Next he took oxygen 32 grams, nitrogen remaining 28 grams, and the product was nitric oxide. In the next reaction, 28 grams and 48 grams. This time the product obtained was N2O3, dinitrogen trioxide. Next, 28 grams nitrogen and 64 grams of oxygen, and the product obtained was nitrogen dioxide. In the last reaction, 28 grams of nitrogen added to 80 grams of oxygen, he obtained N2O5, dinitrogen pentaoxide. What he observed was that when he compared the ratio of the masses of oxygen, he obtained ratios in simple whole numbers. He did the ratio of all these masses, and when he did, the ratio obtained was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The conversion of mass into simple whole numbers indicated that the matter is composed of separate, distinct or discrete building blocks, which he termed as atoms. It was just like bricks combined together to form a wall. These bricks were called atoms. He stated that the matter is not a continuous thing. It is made of blocks just like bricks. On the basis of these observations, Dalton stated that when two elements combine to form multiple products, the masses of one of the elements combine with a fixed mass of the other element. The masses of the first elements are in ratio of simple whole numbers. This law was the basis of the famous Dalton atomic theory, which was also proposed by him in 1803. Let me write the law. The law states, when two elements combine with each other to form multiple compounds, the masses of one element that combine with a fixed mass of other element are in ratio of small whole numbers. Let me explain it with another example. Suppose carbon is given and it is given 1 gram, and we are given oxygen and that is 1.333 grams. The product obtained is carbon monoxide. There are two elements, they are combining, and if we take carbon again 1 gram and oxygen 2.666 grams, the product obtained is carbon dioxide. When two elements combine with each other to form multiple compounds are being obtained, correct? The masses of one elements that combine with a fixed mass of other element. Oxygen is the element which is combining in different masses, while with a fixed mass of other element. So carbon is the fixed mass of element. The masses of the element are in ratio of small whole numbers. If we take the ratio of masses of oxygen in both the reaction, we will get a ratio of 1:2, simple whole number. The next law is the Gay-Lussac's law of gaseous volumes. Gay-Lussac law of gaseous volumes was given by Gay-Lussac in 1808. You should not confuse this law with his another famous law that pertains to relation of pressure and temperature of a gas. That law we will be studying in ideal gas equation. This law states that in a chemical reaction, when two or more gases react and combine to form gases in the product, the ratio of the masses of the gases in the reactants as well as in the products is in simple whole number, provided that all gases exist at same temperature and pressure. Let me write it, then we will understand it completely. The law states that when two or more gases react with one another and form gases as product, the ratio of volumes of gases in reactants as well as in products is in simple whole numbers, provided all gases are at same temperature and pressure. Let us understand with the help of an example. Suppose we form steam with the help of hydrogen gas and oxygen gas. When we use 100 ml of hydrogen gas, we will be using 50 ml of oxygen and the steam formed will be 100 ml. If we take the ratio of the reactants as well as products, ratio of the volumes, we get 100 ratio 50, ratio 100. By simplifying, we get 2 ratio 1 ratio 2. So these are the simple whole numbers, and these volumes are being expressed in simple whole numbers. This volume used in the chemical reaction can also be expressed as by taking the coefficients of the balanced chemical equation. We can express this equation as 2 volumes of hydrogen plus 1 volume of oxygen gives 2 volumes of steam. Taking the coefficient 2, here coefficient is 2, then we take 2 volume of hydrogen, here we take 1 volume of oxygen, and here we take again the coefficient is 2, so it is 2 volume of steam. When we express the equation in terms of this volume, first thing we have to do is that we have to write a balanced chemical equation, and coefficient of each reactant as well as product, which are gases. We have to consider only gases. Gases will be taken as volume. 2 is the coefficient of hydrogen, so it will be written as 2 volume of H2. Coefficient is 1 volume of O2. 2 is coefficient of water, so water or steam, 2 volume of steam. Let me write it. Therefore, the coefficients of gases in balanced chemical equation are taken as volumes. Due to this representation, this law is also called law of definite proportions by volume. Law of definite proportion by volumes. To have a better understanding, let us do 1 or 2 questions on this topic. Question is 60 ml of nitrogen gas and 60 ml of hydrogen gas are made to react. Find volume of ammonia produced. Find volume of ammonia gas, ammonia NH3 gas produced. First we will be writing the balanced chemical equation. Balanced chemical equation is N2 plus 3H2, that gives 2NH3. All of them are gases. When we write it in terms of volume, it has got 1 coefficient, so it will be 1 volume of nitrogen. Here it will be 3 volume of hydrogen, and we get 2 volumes of ammonia. We are given 60 ml of nitrogen and 60 ml of hydrogen. For ammonia to be formed, what is required is nitrogen should be 1/3 the volume of hydrogen. Means if hydrogen is 60 ml, the nitrogen required by hydrogen will be how much? Divided by 3 is equal to 20 ml. And 20 ml of nitrogen will react with 60 ml of hydrogen to form 2 volumes of ammonia. 2 volumes of ammonia means it will be forming 40 ml. 2 volume, 1 volume of nitrogen, 20, its 3 times is 60 ml of hydrogen, and its 2 times will be volume of ammonia. So 40 ml of ammonia will be formed and 40 ml of nitrogen will remain balance. Question is, 100 ml of methane is burnt in air. Find volume of carbon dioxide produced and volume of oxygen used in the reaction. First we have to write balanced chemical equation. Equation will be methane gas. When burnt in air means it will be a combustion reaction and it will be reacting with oxygen and their products will be carbon dioxide plus water. Water will be liquid and carbon dioxide will be a gas. Balance the equation. We get here, write it 2 and here 2. Expressing this equation in volumes, it will be 1 volume of methane. Here it will be 2 volume of oxygen and 1 volume of carbon dioxide is produced. Since water is liquid, we will not consider that. We have got 100 ml of methane. Then how much oxygen will be required? 100 into 2 times. So 200 ml of oxygen will be used. And how much carbon dioxide will it produce? 1 volume methane produces 1 volume of carbon dioxide. So 100 ml will produce 100 ml of carbon dioxide. I think the law may be very clear to you now. And also you must have understood its utility in solving the questions. The next law that we have to study is Avogadro's law. It was given in 1811 by Avogadro. By 1803, Dalton has proposed his famous atomic theory. At that time, scientists believed that atoms of elements of same kind do not react to form compounds or molecules. Means hydrogen H2 as a molecule does not exist. Avogadro also believed the same thing and he was experimenting on hydrogen and oxygen. He assumed that, going by the logic that the elements of same kind cannot react, cannot form molecules, he thought that the reaction should be 1 volume of hydrogen should combine with 1 volume of oxygen to produce 2 volumes of water. 2 volumes of water. But when he experimented, he found that actually what was happening? 2 volumes of hydrogen was reacting with 1 volume of oxygen and producing 2 volume of water. When he wrote the chemical equation on the basis of this finding, he could write 2H plus O gave 2H2O. Now, this equation was not balanced and it violated the law of conservation of mass. Avogadro did a lot of calculations and after that he balanced this equation by stating that hydrogen and oxygen exist as diatomic molecules. The equation he wrote was 2H2 plus O2 gives 2H2O. For the first time, it was found that elements of same kind combine to form polyatomic molecules. So in a way, Avogadro gave the concept of polyatomic molecules. He further examined his chemical equation. He observed that two volumes of hydrogen react with one volume of oxygen to produce two volumes of water. Or it can be said that two volume of hydrogen has two molecules of hydrogen. Going by the equation, balanced equation. Similarly, one volume of oxygen should have one molecule of oxygen. And similarly, two volume of water should have two molecules of water. Correct. If two volume of hydrogen contains two molecules of hydrogen, it means one volume of hydrogen will contain one volume. Divide by 2. So one volume of hydrogen will contain one molecule. One volume of oxygen contains one molecule, no issue. Similarly, one volume of H2O must have one molecule of H2O. On the basis of this observation, he stated that equal volumes of gases have equal number of molecules, provided these gases exist at same temperature and pressure. This is called the famous Avogadro's law. Let me repeat it. Equal volume of gases will contain equal number of molecules, provided the temperature and pressure of all the gases remain the same. Let me write it. The law states equal volumes of all gases at same temperature and pressure contain equal number of molecules. These were the 5 laws of chemical combination. There is one more law that is called law of reciprocal proportions. It is not given in your chapter, but for knowledge sake, I will explain it to you. The law of reciprocal proportions was given by J. Richter in 1792. We will understand this law with the help of an example. Sodium taken 1 gram reacts with chlorine taken 1.54 grams, and the product is sodium chloride, NaCl. When we react 1 gram of sodium with iodine taken 5.52 grams, the product obtained is sodium iodide. In both the reactions, we have kept sodium constant. Mass of sodium remains same in both the reaction. Now we take the ratio of masses of iodine and chlorine, and the ratio will be 5.52 upon 1.54, and by dividing we get 3.58 is the ratio between iodine and chlorine. Now we react chlorine and iodine, these two, among themselves. We use 1 gram chlorine and we use 1.19 grams of iodine, and the product obtained is iodine trichloride. Iodine trichloride. When we find the ratio of iodine and chlorine, when they have reacted with each other, the ratio comes out to be 1.19 upon 1, and it will be 1.19. When we compare both these ratios, we observe that this ratio is multiple of this ratio, and that multiple is a simple whole number. If we multiply 1.19 by 3, we get 3.58. This is the law of reciprocal proportions. We can express it in English language. How? It says that when two elements react with an element having constant mass, the ratio of the two other elements is either equal to or simple whole number multiple of the ratio of masses of these elements if they react with each other. Ratio of iodine and chlorine when reacted with fixed mass is 3.58. When they reacted among themselves, the ratio was 1.19, and this ratio are multiple, and that multiple is a simple whole number. Correct? Let me write it. Let me write the statement now. The law states that if two different elements combine separately with a fixed mass of third element, the ratio of their masses is either same or simple whole number multiple of ratio of masses in which they combine with each other. Confused? Let us do one more example to make the things clear. I take 16 grams of oxygen and react with 12 gram of carbon. The product is carbon dioxide. I take 16 grams of oxygen, the same amount, and react it with sulfur. That is, we take 32 grams and the product is SO2. So I have taken a fixed mass of third element and I have taken two different elements, carbon and sulfur. I have to take the ratio of their masses. So ratio of their masses is sulfur upon carbon. It is 32 upon 12, and it forms, when you simplify, we get 8 upon 3. When we react carbon and sulfur, carbon we take 12 grams and sulfur we take 64 grams, and we will be getting CS2, carbon disulfide. When we take ratio of sulfur and carbon, the ratio comes out to be 64 upon 12, and we simplify it. 4 3s are 4 1s are 4 6 are 16 by 3. Correct? When we compare both these ratios, we clearly see this ratio and this ratio has a simple relation. If we multiply 8 by 3, 8 by 2, I'll be getting 16 by 3. This is the simple whole number multiple of the A ratio 8 upon 3. And here it says the ratio of their masses is either same or simple whole number multiple of ratio of masses in which they combine with each other. When they combine with each other, the ratio of the masses we get is simple whole number multiple of the ratio of their masses when they reacted with a fixed mass of oxygen. I think now the law may be quite clear to you. Let's move further. Dalton proposed his atomic theory in 1808. The main postulates of this theory were: matter consists of indivisible particles called atoms. All the atoms of given element are identical in mass and properties. The atoms of different elements have different mass and different properties. Different elements combine in fixed ratio to form compounds. And the last postulate was: atoms can neither be created nor be destroyed in a chemical reaction. They undergo rearrangement in the reactions. These postulates you have studied in your 9th and 10th class as well. This theory had many drawbacks. The basic and main drawback was that Dalton failed to explain that if the atoms of different elements are combining, how they are combining, why they are combining, what is making them to combine with each other. Dalton's atomic theory also failed to explain the law of gaseous volumes. As I have told you previously, Dalton believed that atoms of same element do not combine to form molecules. But later it was proved that atoms of same element combine to form molecules which are diatomic, triatomic or polyatomic. Next is, what is atomic mass? Atomic mass basically means sum of masses of protons and neutrons present in an atom. While calculating atomic mass, the mass of electrons is ignored because the mass of an atom is said to be concentrated in its nucleus, which contains neutrons and protons. Hence, atomic mass is sum of masses of neutrons and protons present in an atom. While you will be studying atomic mass, another term will time and again come before you, that is atomic weight. Atomic weight. Atomic weight and atomic mass basically mean the same thing. They are both sum of masses of protons and neutrons present in an atom. But they have a slight difference. However, still they are used interchangeably in the chemistry. So many times in your book or in your exams, you will find somewhere written atomic mass, somewhere written atomic weight. We will understand the little difference existing between the two. First, let us understand what is atomic mass. Nowadays, atomic mass of an atom is calculated by using a technique called mass spectroscopy. Mass spectroscopy. This technique helps to determine the mass of an atom quite precisely and accurately. But in 19th century, the mass of an atom was determined as a relative mass to another atom which was taken as a base. Let me write it. In 19th century, so mass of an atom was determined as relative mass to a given atom which was taken as a base unit. Hydrogen atom was the lightest atom, hydrogen atom. So it was taken as the base atom for determining the mass of other atoms. And it was assigned a mass of equal to 1. No units were there. Means atomic mass at the time had no units. If oxygen atom had a mass of 16, it meant oxygen atom was 16 times heavier than hydrogen atom. Later on, oxygen atom was taken as a base atom for determining the relative masses of other atoms. In 1961, both hydrogen and oxygen atoms were replaced by another atom, and that was carbon-12 atom. Let me write it. Carbon-12 atom was taken as the base atom for determining the masses of other atoms. Carbon-12 atom was assigned a mass of equal to 12 atomic mass units. Atomic mass unit was taken as the unit of atomic mass. In short, it was written as AMU. 1 AMU was equal to, if you cross multiply it, it comes here and it will be 1 by 12 multiply mass of carbon-12 atom. So 1 AMU is defined as the mass equal to 1/12 the mass of a carbon-12 atom. AMU has also been expressed in grams, and its value in grams is 1.66056 into 10 to the power minus 24 grams. Interestingly, the mass of one neutron is equal to 1674 into 10 to the power minus 24 gram, and mass of one proton is equal to 1.672 into 10 to the power minus 24 grams. So all of these three had almost equal masses. Therefore, the mass of one neutron was approximately taken equal to the mass of one proton, and both of them were assigned a mass of 1 AMU. Nowadays, AMU has also been changed and a new unit has been adopted, that is denoted by U. It is called unified mass. Unified mass. Since we have assumed that mass of one neutron is equal to mass of one proton, and that is equal to 1 AMU or 1 U, it means if I take the mass of carbon-12 atom, I will be adding the masses of neutrons and protons present in the carbon-12 atoms. Or I can simply say that mass of carbon-12 atom is equal to number of protons and neutrons present in carbon-12 atom. Why? Because mass and number are the same here. So I write here, now number of protons and neutrons in a carbon-12 atom is nothing but mass number. We know mass number is the total number of protons and neutrons in a given atom, in C12 atom. Therefore, mass of carbon 12 atom will be, in carbon 12 there are 6 protons and 6 neutrons and its mass number is 12. So mass of carbon 12 atom will be equal to its mass number expressed in AMU or simply U. This is the definition of atomic mass. Atomic mass is equal to the mass number of a given atom expressed in atomic mass units or simply U. So atomic mass is always a whole number, will be a whole number. Correct? Let us now go to atomic weight. Naturally occurring elements contain more than one isotope. Isotope means atoms of a given element which have same atomic number but different mass number. Let me write it. Naturally occurring elements have more than one isotope, while isotopes are atoms of same element having same atomic number but different mass number. Since these elements contain different isotopes, we have to take the average mass of all the isotopes present in the given sample of an element to determine its actual atomic mass. This average atomic mass is also called atomic weight. So atomic weight is the weighted average of masses of isotopes present in a given sample of an element, computed on the basis of their relative abundance. Let me first write it and then I will explain it with an example. So atomic weight is weighted average of masses of isotopes present in a sample of element and calculated considering relative abundance of these isotopes. Atomic weight is also called average atomic mass. Let us understand with an example. Suppose chlorine element is given. When you get chlorine from atmosphere or nature, you will get the sample of chlorine having two isotopes, chlorine 35 and chlorine 37. The abundance of chlorine 35 means presence of chlorine 35 isotopes in the given sample is 75%. And chlorine 37 is 25%. 35 and 37 are respectively the mass numbers of the isotopes. To calculate the atomic weight, there is a formula. So atomic weight, or you can say average atomic mass, is equal to percentage of isotope 1, say I1, upon 100 into atomic mass of isotope number 1, correct, plus percentage of isotope 2, I2 I can write, upon 100 into atomic mass of isotope number 2. Atomic mass, as I have told you, is equal to mass number expressed in AMUs or U. Putting these terms in this formula, the result will be 75 upon 100 into 35 for isotope number 1, that is chlorine 35, plus 25 upon 100 into 37. And when we solve it, the answer will be 35.5 U. So this is the atomic weight of chlorine or average atomic mass of chlorine. However, as I have told you, atomic weight and atomic masses, these terms are used interchangeably. You may be also given in the question that atomic mass of chlorine is 35.5 U, but the minor difference between the two is that atomic number is a whole number, while atomic weight is expressed in decimal. Now, can you think of a situation where atomic mass will be equal to atomic weight? Can this happen? Yes, certainly it can happen. If an element has single isotope in it, then the atomic mass will be equal to atomic weight. In that sense, they are the same terms. Atomic mass and atomic weight are the same thing. That's why they are being used interchangeably. Let me write it. So atomic mass will be equal to atomic weight if an element has one isotope. Let us try some numericals on this topic. Question is, find the atomic weight of argon if in the given sample the isotopes are present in the given percentage abundance. So, question is, find the atomic weight of argon. Argon sample has 3 isotopes, 36, 38 and 40, and the relative percentage abundance of each of the isotopes has been given, and you have to find out the atomic weight of argon or average atomic mass. As I have told you, the average atomic mass formula is percentage of isotope number 1, say I1, upon 100 into atomic mass of first isotope. I can write Am atomic mass and 1 plus percentage of isotope number 2 upon 100 and atomic mass of isotope number 2, and this will continue depending on the number of isotopes present in the given sample. For argon, atomic mass will be calculated as first 36 is having percentage of 0.337 upon 100, and we have to multiply it by 36 as per the formula, and next is 0.63 upon 100 into 38 plus 99.60 upon 100 into 40. After simplifying, the result will be 39.948 U. So that is the atomic weight of argon. Next very important question is, while calculating the relative masses of different atoms, carbon 12 has been taken as the reference atom. Why carbon 12 has been taken as a reference sample in place of hydrogen atom or oxygen atom? It is a very important question. Question is, why carbon 12 atom taken as base atom for calculating relative mass of other atoms? In the starting, hydrogen atom was taken as the base for calculating the masses of other atoms, and it was assigned a mass of 1 unit. Correct. After hydrogen atom, oxygen atom was taken as the base, and later and now it is carbon 12. While taking any atom as a base, scientists were interested in finding an atom whose atomic mass may be exactly in whole number. It should not have any decimal. While hydrogen atom was assigned a mass of 1, it was found that hydrogen element consisted of 3 isotopes, H1, H2 and H3. protium, deuterium, tritium. While protium consisted of 99% of the sample, the average atomic mass of all these isotopes was found to be approximately 1.0078 U. Not exactly a whole number. But another problem with hydrogen atom or element was that the hydrogen isotope, that is the protium, was highly unstable. Due to this instability of hydrogen 1 or protium isotope, the hydrogen atom was discarded. Oxygen atom was taken later. Why? Because oxygen atom or oxygen very readily reacted with different types of atoms, and it made easier for them to determine atomic masses of other atoms while carrying out the chemical reactions. Oxygen actually was again consisted of 3 isotopes: oxygen 16, oxygen 17 and oxygen 18. And when the average atomic mass of oxygen was calculated, it was found to be 15.995 U. It was again not exactly a whole number. However, oxygen 16 was still 99% present in the given sample. Then carbon 12 was taken. Carbon 12 also had 3 isotopes: carbon 12, carbon 13, carbon 14. Again, carbon 12 was about 99%. Means there was huge amount of carbon 12 isotopes in the given sample. Another very important thing happened was that this carbon 14 isotope was radioactive, and with time the sample of carbon contained very little amount of carbon 14. So to calculate the average atomic mass, we have to consider only 2 isotopes, carbon 12 and carbon 13, and the average atomic mass of carbon was found to be 12.011 U, and it was taken as a whole number equal to 12. That's why carbon 12 was selected as the base atom. So there were 2 reasons. First, large abundance of carbon 12 isotope in the given sample, large abundance of carbon 12, and second was that C14 isotope was radioactive, and it does not matter to take the mass of carbon 14 isotope into consideration while calculating the average atomic mass. You can also write that carbon 12 was also stable. So with 3 points you can easily define that why carbon 12 was taken as the base atom. Let's start the next topic, and that is molecular mass. Molecular mass was simply the mass of a molecule, and it was equal to sum of the atomic masses of the atoms present in the given molecule. As you all know that molecule consists of atoms. So we take atomic mass of individual atoms, add them, and we will find molecular mass. So molecular mass, let me write it. For example, water. Now water has 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. Mass of 1 hydrogen atom is 1.008 U approximately, and we will multiply it by 2. And 1 oxygen atom mass is 15.995. And when we add them, the answer will be about 18.02 U. So this was the atomic mass of H2. Very simple. You have to just take the molecule and add up the atomic masses of all the atoms present in the given formula of the molecule. Next is the formula unit mass. Formula mass. Formula mass is similar to molecular mass with a difference. It happens in case of those substances which do not have discrete molecules, and this happens generally in ionic compounds. Let me first write it. Some substances do not have distinct or discrete molecules, and it happens especially in ionic compounds. Let me explain with the example of a covalent compound. In case of covalent compound, there exist distinct molecules. For example, water. In water, you will find molecules, each molecule connected to another molecule just by touching. Their atoms do not combine with each other. So they have each molecule has a distinct formula, and it is easier to calculate their molecular mass. In case of ionic compounds, let me take an example of NaCl. What happens is that Na atom or ion is connected to 6 chlorine atoms. 6 chlorine atoms. And that too in 3-dimensional. This one, and this is inside the board, and this is outside the board. And each chlorine is further connected to 6 sodium atoms. So a large network like structure is formed which is 3-dimensional, and such kind of structure is called lattice. You will have a big chapter on lattice in chemistry. So lattice is a network of atoms connected to each other in 3-dimensional, and they are connected in such a way that it is very difficult to determine indivisible molecules. In case of NaCl, each sodium is connected to 6 chlorine, and each chlorine is connected to 6 sodium. Let me complete 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then here it is outside the paper, and 1 sodium inside the paper. I will be writing the formula of the molecule as Na6Cl6. And in case of other ionic compounds, just like CaCl2, in case of CaCl2, you can't even determine that how many Ca calcium are connected to how many chlorine atoms. So in case of such compounds, the simplest formula of the compound is taken, and that simplest formula is called the formula unit, and its mass is called formula mass or formula unit mass. Means Na2Cl2, Na6Cl6, the molecule of NaCl will be taken as simply NaCl. Means simplest formula of the compound. And when you calculate the mass of this compound, you will be getting the formula mass. This is the difference between molecular mass and formula mass. Let me write it. Lattice. Lattice is network-like structure in 3 dimensions of a given ionic compound. Formula mass. Formula mass is sum of masses of atoms present in the simplest formula of the given ionic compound. For example, Na6Cl6, we simplify it and we get the formula NaCl, and when we calculate its mass, we add up the masses of the atoms. Sodium has 23.0 U and chlorine has 35.5 U, and the mass of NaCl comes out to be 58.5 U, and this 58.5 U is called the formula mass of NaCl. It is not called molecular mass, it is called the formula mass. Let me write it. Formula mass of NaCl is equal to 58.5 decimal 5 U. Next, again a very important topic, mole concept. In science, we deal with not only very tiny particles, we also have to deal with large number of particles. To write these large numbers conveniently, a unit has been developed, and that unit is called mole. So 1 mole is equal to number of atoms present in 12 gram of a sample of carbon 12 isotope. Let me write it. 1 mole is equal to number of atoms in 12 grams of carbon 12 isotope. We have now to determine what is the exact number of atoms in 12 grams of carbon 12. By mass spectroscopy, mass of one carbon 12 atom or isotope has been determined as 1.992648 into 10 to the power minus 23 grams. It can be written in a different way. We can also say 1.992648 into 10 to the power minus 23 grams of carbon 12 contains one atom. Because mass of one atom is this much gram. So this gram of carbon 12 will contain one atom. Then 1 gram of carbon 12 will contain how much? 1 upon 1.99. We divide 1 by this mass. We have to consider 12 grams. 12 grams of carbon 12 will contain, multiply this number by 12, and on simplifying we will be getting a number 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 number or atoms. So 12 grams of carbon 12 isotope contains 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 atoms. It is a long number. We have taken only the significant figures. This number of atoms is nothing but 1 mole, and this can be applied to any type of particle, be it atoms, be it molecules, be it ions, or any other particle. For example, if I will say 1 mole of water molecules, so it will simply means 1 mole of water molecules will be how many molecules? 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 molecules. We can also say 1 mole of NaCl. Let me write 1 mole of NaCl. Then it will be termed as 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 formula units of NaCl. Formula units of NaCl. So you take any particle, any kind of particle, 1 mole means 6.022 into 10 to the power 23. And this is also called Avogadro's constant, or simply Avogadro's number. 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 is also called Avogadro's number or Avogadro's constant, and it is denoted by capital N, and A you can write under the N. and this is equal to 1 mole as I have explained. Another very important aspect of mole concept is that, let me first write the definition. 1 mole was equal to number of atoms in 12 grams of carbon 12. Now what is 12 grams? 12 grams is atomic mass of carbon 12. So I can also write this statement as mass of 1 mole of carbon 12 will be equal to 12 grams. This can be generalized. Mass of 1 mole of any other substance or any other particle, any other molecule will be equal to the molecular mass or atomic mass or formula mass of the given substance. So the general formula will be the mass of that 1 mole will be equal to the atomic mass, molecular mass or formula mass in grams. If I write the whole thing, mole concept, in one line, I will be writing 1 mole is equal to 6.022 into 10 to the power 23, and mass of 1 mole will be equal to atomic or molecular mass of given substance. Simplest way to express mole concept is 1 mole is equal to 6.022 into 10 to the power 23, and the mass of 1 mole of any substance is equal to atomic molecular mass of given substance. There are a lot of numericals on mole concept. To determine moles, there are certain formulas. These are 3 formulas to determine number of moles in a given question. First is given mass upon given mass of an atom or a molecule. Atom or molecule upon atomic mass and molecular mass of that atom or molecule. Second is given number of atoms and molecules upon 6.022 into 10 to the power 23. Given means which are given in the question. When you will be attempting the numericals, the things will get clear. And the another formula is given volume of gas at standard temperature and pressure, that is STP, upon 22.4 liters. If there is given gas in the numerical, then to calculate the number of moles, we have to know that may be given in the question, given volume of a gas at STP and 22.4 liters. You must also remember that 22.4 liter of any gas contains 1 mole of particles, that is 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 particles. These formulas will get clear when we will be trying the numericals. Another small topic is molar mass. Molar mass of any substance is simply the way of expressing mass of 1 mole of that substance. Means if you say mass of 1 mole of substance is this much, you can simply say molar mass. So molar mass and mass of 1 mole of a substance means, in place of writing a full line that mass of 1 mole of substance, we simply say molar mass of that substance. So molar mass is mass of 1 mole of a substance. For example, if I say mass of 1 mole of water, in place of writing this full line mass of 1 mole of water, I can simply write molar mass of water. Molar mass of water. And molar mass of water will be equal to molecular mass expressed in grams. And water's molecular mass, we all know, 18.02. And molar mass unit has got grams per mole. So molar mass, units of molar mass is gram per mole. To express mass of 1 mole of any substance, we can simply write molar mass of that substance, and that mass will be equal to the molecular mass or atomic mass expressed in grams per mole. So in numericals, so many times you will be finding the statement molar mass. Molar mass is nothing but mass of 1 mole of the substance. Let us try some numericals. Before starting the numericals, let me explain one more important term, that is gram atom. Gram atom is actually short form of gram atomic mass. Gram atomic mass. Gram atomic mass or gram atom is defined as atomic mass of an element expressed in grams. For example, oxygen atom has an atomic mass of 16. If I write 1 gram atom of oxygen, it would be equal to 16 grams as per the definition. Also, as per the mole concept, this 16 gram will be equal to mass of 1 mole of oxygen. 1 mole of oxygen. Therefore, the definition of gram atom may also be stated as the mass of 1 mole of an atom expressed in grams. Nowadays, gram atom term is not being used. In place of gram atom, the term being used is mole. So 1 gram atom is nothing but equal to 1 mole. And also, just by the definition, we have understood that 1 gram atom is equal to atomic mass of an element in grams, expressed in grams, atomic mass of element in grams. Many times you may have seen written like this: 1 mole equal to atomic mass of an element in grams. Now, mole is just a number, Avogadro's number, and it is being written equal to grams, atomic mass of element in grams. You may be little confused. Actually, 1 gram atom was replaced by mole, and 1 gram atom had the definition atomic mass of element in grams. Therefore, when we write 1 mole is equal to atomic mass of element in grams, it means we are writing 1 gram atom. Actually, 1 mole here is representing 1 gram atom. Hope this clears your confusion. Another very confusing thing. If I say 1 gram atom of oxygen, and I also say 1 grams of oxygen atoms, what is this? Let me explain with an example. Question is, find number of moles in 1 gram atom of oxygen and 1 grams of oxygen. Here you should not be confusing the terms. 1 gram atom is a scientific term, while 1 grams of oxygen, it is more to deal with English language. Gram atom does not mean grams of atom. It means gram atom only. 1 gram atom of oxygen will have 1 mole, going by the definition. 1 mole is equal to 16 grams. So 16 grams of oxygen will have 1 mole. Correct? Atomic mass of oxygen is 16. Therefore, 1 gram of oxygen will have 1 upon 16 mole. I think this clears your doubt about 1 gram atom and 1 grams of atoms. Just like gram atom, another term generally used is gram molecule. What is gram molecule? Simple. Gram molecule will be molecular mass of a compound expressed in grams. So, molecular mass expressed in grams. Let's now try some numericals on mole concept. Question is, 3 moles of ethane are given and you have to find number of moles of carbon atoms, number of moles of hydrogen atom and number of molecules of ethane. Let us solve. From the formula it is clear that 1 molecule of ethane will have how many? 2 carbon atoms. Therefore, 1 mole of ethane will have how many? 2 carbon atoms. Therefore, 3 moles. Question is saying 3 moles. 3 mole will have 3 into 2 is equal to 6 moles of carbon atoms. Second part, number of moles of hydrogen atom. 1 molecule of ethane has 6 hydrogen atoms. 6 hydrogen atoms. Therefore, 1 mole of ethane will have 6 hydrogen atoms. 6 moles of hydrogen atoms. And 3 moles of ethane will have 3 multiplied by 6 and it will be 18 moles of hydrogen atoms. This is the second part. Number of molecules of C2H6. Now 1 mole of C2H6 will be equal to how many? 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 molecules. Definition of mole. 3 moles will be equal to 3 times 622 into 10 to the power 23 and you multiply it and you get 18.066 into 10 to the power 23 molecules. Simple. Next question. Question is, number of water molecules is maximum in 18 molecules of water or 1.8 gram of water or 18 grams of water or 18 moles of water. Now molar mass of water is 18 gram per mole. In first case, already number of molecules is given, so there are 18 molecules. Nothing to solve. Next case, we will apply the formula. Number of moles is equal to given mass, that is 1.8 upon molar mass 18, so it will be 1 by 10 moles. And to find the number of molecules, we have to multiply it by 6.022 into 10 to the power 23. In case of 18 grams of water, again the same formula, 18 by 18 will be equal to 1 into 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 molecules. In 18 moles of water, it will be 18 times Avogadro's number, 6.022 into 10 to the power 23. Clearly, 18 moles of water have the maximum number of molecules. Next question. Question is, find number of atoms in 0.1 mole of triatomic gas. Triatomic means there are 3 atoms in a molecule and you have to find number of atoms in a molecule having 3 atoms and is 0.1 mole. So, number of atoms in each molecule is equal to 3. Correct? 0.1 mole of molecule, triatomic molecule, will have how many? 0.1 into Avogadro's number into 10 to the power 23 number of atoms. Therefore, 0.1 mole of molecule will have 3 times 0.1 into 6022 into 10 to the power 23 number of atoms. Multiply it and 1.8006 and it will be 10 to the power 23 number of atoms. Question is, find volume occupied by one molecule of water if density of water is 1 gram per centimeter cube. Going by the definition of density, I can write 1 gram of water has volume 1 centimeter cube. Molar mass of water is 18 grams. I can say 18 grams of water has volume 18 centimeter cube. Now 18 grams is nothing but equal to 1 mole, or I can say 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 molecules of water has volume 18 centimeter cube. We have to find volume occupied by one molecule. So one molecule of water will occupy how much? 18 divided by 6.022 into 10 to the power 23, and the answer will be, by simplifying, 3 into 10 to the power minus 23 centimeter cube. Question is, find number of atoms in 52 moles of helium, 52 grams of helium and 52 U of helium. First case, it is very simple, 52 moles. 52 moles means 52 into 6.22 into 10 to the power 23. Multiply the number simply by Avogadro's number, you will be getting number of atoms of helium. 52 grams, here we have to apply the formula. N is equal to given mass. Given mass is 52 and the molar mass is 4 grams. So answer will be 13. And to calculate the atoms, we have to multiply it by the Avogadro's number. You can simplify. In third case, again the mass here is expressed in U, unified mass. So I will be writing given mass 52U and the molecular mass, that will be 4U, and then it will be 13, and again multiply it by Avogadro's number and you will be getting the number of atoms present in the 52U of helium. Next question is, how much copper can be obtained from 100 grams of copper sulfate? First we have to find the molar mass of copper sulfate. Molar mass. Copper has atomic mass of 63.5, sulfur has 32 and oxygen 16. There are 4 oxygen atoms, so it will be 16 multiplied by 4. And when you solve them, the answer will be 159.5 grams per mole. Now 159.5 grams of copper sulfate has how much copper? 63.5. Correct. So one will have 63.5 upon 159.5. 100 grams we are interested in. So 100 grams of copper sulfate will have, multiply it by 100. The answer will be approximately 39.8 grams. Simple. Here we come to the end of part 3 of the class 11 chapter 1 basic concepts of chemistry. We will soon be meeting in part 4 of class 11 basic concepts of chemistry chapter 1. Best wishes, keep working hard. Thank you.